Hello YouTube, Super Norris here, and today I wanted to talk about a looming problem here in the world of gaming that I've been thinking about recently. See, there's been a series of videos on the internet about what console generation is really the worst, or we could say going to be worse. And a lot of people are saying, hey, this 8th generation is really shaping up to be quite a shit fest, and really it's not worth your money to go into it, or you should go into PC, or, something like that is what I'm hearing people say. And really, what I have to say is, I don't think that it's going to be anywhere near as bad as the 7th generation was. And I want to talk to you about my thoughts about that, especially as a gamer of all generations of consoles. So, the first thing that I want to say is that 10 years down the line, it's going to be a real son of a bitch to play games on a PS3 or an Xbox 360. And here's why. Number one, the hardware. Now, we all know about the red rings of death and the yellow light of death with the PS3. But there's also those other little things that you may not have thought about, like hard drives failing, for example. And that's probably going to be a big one here going out. And just other parts in general, because of shoddy manufacturing and the systems being rushed out. Blu-ray drive failures in the PS3, especially those earlier models. Now, I have a launch 60 gig PS3, and I'm just counting down the days until I get the yellow light of death from something. The thing sounds like a freaking jet engine. I want to take it to a specialist someday so that I can have it taken apart, have the thermal paste reapplied, have the solder joints looked at, all that stuff, because I play my PS1, PS2, and PS3 games on that, and I don't want to see any of that save data go away ever. And that's not to say that my Xbox 360 save data isn't that important to me either, but, it is, but I'd say my PS3 data kind of would be on my list as things that I would want to last. Kind of like your old PlayStation memory cards, or I have GameCube memory cards from back when I first got the console, and they still work just fine. And maybe one or two have even gone through the washer a few times and still work. Yeah, I'm dead serious about that too. So a couple of things make me think that this 7th generation is going to be worse than the 8th generation. And the biggest thing is that the disc content is buggy as all hell, and that we're probably not going to be able to get those patches back. So besides the hardware failures, we're going to have to deal with the fact that these consoles won't be online anymore. There won't be any Xbox Live or PSN to connect to eventually. We know that they're going to try and move you over to PS4 and Xbox One eventually. I would say Microsoft has a bigger chance of rushing you over faster than Sony. Sony has kind of a thing with keeping their old consoles alive for longer, and I actually like that. I really do. Because, it keeps all of us gaming on the PS3 and stuff. And it keeps more people from wanting to float away from a platform just because something is newer. And because newer doesn't always mean better, it just means newer. Give me Final Fantasy 6 or Final Fantasy 13. I'm going to pick Final Fantasy 6 any day of the week. So, looking over my little list here of things that I wanted to take a point on. Oh yeah, I really must commend Nintendo for this. And you could say because that's how they're kind of lacking in the times, but their systems are more durable. They're more likely to last you 20, 30, maybe even 40 years than the competition. And in the past, it's proven that way too. I have all these Nintendo consoles that still work, back from the NES up to now. And I've only ever had one Nintendo go down on me, and that was a GameCube. And that's because when I was younger, I was a stupid dumbass slowing the disc down with my finger when I was done playing a game because I didn't want to wait for this stupid thing to stop spinning. Yeah. Don't ever do anything dumb like that, or else your GameCube will be dead in no time. You'll start it up and the disc will not spin. Okay. So, we already know that we're going to have bits and pieces of random games that are going to be unplayable since the multiplayer is going to be offline. But what about the DLC that kind of can be made to extend the game? In some points, like Mass Effect 3, you download DLC to finish the game truly, or something dumb like that. Unless there's some major hacking done, I don't see that content lasting. And a lot of content I see going into this void, mysterious tech void or whatever, where everything is just gone away and you'll never see it again. Just like data from the old Nintendo Satellaviews in Japan. A lot of that stuff, they broadcast the game. You had to save it to your thing, and a lot of times you just ride over that once another Satellaview game came out. So these Satellaview games for the Super Nintendo in Japan, you can't really get them anymore unless you have a Nintendo thing with those games saved on it. So there are entire games that are lost to time now that you will never be able to play again simply because, no one has it. And that's what's going to happen with a lot of these 360 and PS3 online games. And I hate to say this, but it's going to involve indie games. It's going to involve games that didn't do well, of course. Games that were taken off prematurely. And even a lot of your favorite titles, like, say, Mega Man 9 or 10. That's already went off of PSN. So, really, it's going to... If you want to play those games, you're eventually just going to have to find a console that had already downloaded onto them. Or, if by that time hackers get to it, yeah, that'll be all fine and dandy, but then again, you'll have to go through an arm and a leg just to get it onto a working console, and then to hack it and do all that freaking shit, modding it and putting homebrew and stuff. I mean, I'm not saying that it's that hard, but it's tedious enough to put some people away from it. And, oh my gosh, it's just going to be a never-ending deal. Okay, I want to picture myself, let's say 10 years from now. It's 2024. I'm walking through a flea market and I find Chrome Hounds on Xbox 360. This is an example I chose specifically because it doesn't work now. All you can do in this game is play the training in it because the servers are offline. But let's say I go to a flea market in 2024 and I pick a game that was always online. Or let's say I pick up a broken pile of shit and I didn't know it was. Say Skyrim on PS3. I take it home. I go to play it. And either the game is broken because the on-disc content simply wasn't finished when the publisher released it, or it's just one of those games that was made to always be online, and once the servers went down, that's it, you're not playing the game anymore. And this package does not say anywhere on it that it is always online. It does say online multiplayer, 2 to 12 people, but then it says up here on the back, players 1. It does not say anything on the back here about having to read it. Having to be online. It says in order to play online content, you must pay for Xbox Live, but that doesn't imply that being online is required. And this was a 360 launch game. A launch game. So think about how many other games since launch is going to go be this bad. Simply put, if you're the kind of gamer who also is a collector, keeps all their shit, or doesn't go with the whole once it's more than 2 seconds old, it's out of date and I can't play it anymore facet of our society, then it just almost doesn't seem like it's going to be worth collecting for or even doing anything with. It's going to be, it not only is it going to be the worst generation of all time, it's going to be the worst aged generation of all time. It's going to have aged worse than playing an Atari 2600 on your new HD TV that's 4K. And some people are like, okay, 8th generation is just an extension of 7th generation, but 8th generation is different in one area alone, that it's made up of more cheap computer-based parts, x86-based technology that everyone knows and is familiar with. It's going to be easier to hack the shit 20 years down the line. Let alone a PS3 with cell, powered by cell. I really get the argument that 8th gen is probably going to be crap simply because no one has really changed up much besides, Nintendo adding a tablet as their controller. There's really nothing all inspiring about 8th generation, but it's at least nice that it's finally here. I have an Xbox One and I have a Wii U. I'm pretty happy with both consoles. Granted, I have 13 Wii U games right here and 3 Xbox One games, but as I'm recording this, it's January 1st, 2014, so you gotta give it some of that. But, okay. In conclusion, yeah, I'd like to see what your take on my argument here is going to be. Maybe you think that hackers will be more thorough about keeping all the content and all the patches and all the bullshit that we're going to have to do to play these consoles. But are you going to be someone like me who's going to be trying to meticulously maintain this shit, hoping that their freaking 60 gig PS3 doesn't suddenly die and never turns on again? Trying to replace thermal paste and take a look at innards and stuff. Well, I'm no techie, but I'm as in techie as in, I don't claim to know anything about how this shit works and how the code runs. but I can play the games, as we all can. So yeah, that pretty much wraps that up. Post your thoughts and comments, and I actually got myself a Hauppauge HD PVR rocket, so I plan on doing some playthroughs of some NES reproduction cartridges, and maybe also doing some playthroughs of a few other things. I'll post it both to YouTube and Twitch whenever I start using Twitch. But yeah, thanks, and have a great one, gamers.